You know that feeling when you're scrolling through a dozen soundbars, watching endless YouTube breakdowns, and wondering if any of them will actually make your living room feel like a theater instead of just a louder TV? You've probably already set a budget, measured the space, and imagined how the new setup will sound during that first big movie night. The fear of splurging on a model that ends up sounding flat or leaves you tangled in cables is real, and that's why I'm going to walk through the JBL Bar 1000 and see if it actually earns a spot on your shelf. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the promise of true Dolby Atmos and DTS X that JBL touts. In plain language, that means the system tries to create height and object-based audio, so you can hear a plane fly over you or rain patter from above, not just left-right or front-back. For most people, the question is whether that tech translates into a noticeable difference in a typical living room, especially one that isn't a perfect rectangle or is filled with furniture. In my testing, the Bar 1000's detachable surround speakers made a genuine impact. When I placed them just behind the couch, the ambient sounds like wind whooshes in an action sequence seemed to move around the space rather than stay glued to the front panel. That's a big step up from a vanilla 2.1 bar that throws all the action forward. Now, dialogue clarity is a deal breaker for a lot of viewers. Some soundbars boost the bass so much that you have to squint at the subtitles, while others leave you straining to hear whispered conspiracies. The JBL Bar 1000 uses a fairly aggressive DSP that lifts mids without drowning them in the 880 watts of power it can push. In a comedy scene with rapid banter, the words stayed crisp, and the background laughter didn't drown the jokes. If you have a home theater setup where speech is as important as explosions, that balance feels intentional rather than a generic loudness push. Bass is the next practical factor. The 10-inch wireless subwoofer is a sizable companion, and its wireless nature means you can hide it under a couch or a corner shelf. In a medium-sized room, about 250 square feet, the sub delivered the low end you'd expect from a dedicated subwoofer, rumbling enough to feel the impact of a car chase without turning the whole wall into a shaker. However, the sub's placement matters. If you set it too close to a corner, the bass can become boomy, masking finer details in the music track. A quick experiment moving the sub a foot away from the wall tamed that excess and gave you a tighter, more controlled low-frequency response. Connectivity is where the Bar 1000 shines for the everyday user. Built-in Wi-Fi, AirPlay 2, Chromecast, and Alexa multi-room music mean you can stream Spotify, Apple Music, or even your phone's library without reaching for an extra dongle. The HDMI connection handled the Atmos metadata cleanly, and I didn't notice any lip sync issues when I swapped between Netflix and a game console. The remote, though, has a learning curve. It combines volume, source selection, and mode toggles on a single panel, and the mode button cycles through a handful of preset sound profiles. After a few presses, you'll get the hang of it, but the first night can feel a bit clunky if you're used to a dedicated Dolby Atmos button on other brands. Who should consider this bar? If you already have a 4K TV and want to step up from a basic soundbar without buying a full set of separate speakers and an AVR, the Bar 1000 offers a fairly complete package. It works well in apartments or medium-sized homes where you can place the detachable surrounds at ear level. Families who love movie marathons, gamers who want directional audio cues, and music lovers who appreciate a strong, clean mid-range will all benefit from the combination of Atmos, the wireless sub, and the streaming options. The price point also makes sense if you're looking for a premium feel without breaking the bank on a full 7.1 speaker system. Who might skip it? If you live in a very small studio where you can't fit the 2 satellite speakers without crowding the space, the detachable surrounds become more of a nuisance than a benefit. Likewise, if you're a hardcore audiophile who insists on custom-tuned floor-standing speakers and a high-end AVR, the Bar 1000's processing, while good, won't match the nuance you'd get from a dedicated component system. Finally, if you rely heavily on a traditional IR remote for quick source switching and find the mixed-mode remote frustrating, you might want to look at brands that separate those controls. Let's talk about the practical downside that some owners notice. The wireless sub, while convenient, does require a steady power source and occasionally drops its Bluetooth connection if there's interference from other devices on the same 2.4 GHz band. In my experience, Moving the Wi-Fi router a few feet away and ensuring the sub is on a different electrical circuit solved the occasional hiccup. Also, the Bar 1000's true height speakers.